2 kilometers offshore Dakar, the capital city of Senegal, lies a 45-acre island in the Atlantic, 15 minutes by ferry which operates from the port of Dakar. For a distance, the island looks quiet and peaceful. This is Goree Island, meaning good harbor in Dutch.
First Europeans to come to Goree Island were the Portuguese, and then the Dutch, and the French, and the British, and the French again. And after the abolition of the slave trade by France in 1848, the colonization replaced slavery and the slave trade. So that is why finally the French stayed in Goree Island until 1960.
Travel back in time and the name became meaningless.
Inside this very, very small house of slaves, right and left correspond to the famous cell reserved for only men. So that is why this one in the front corresponds to the typical cell reserved for men. And as I was sitting down all along the wall, back against the wall, shackles in the neck and the arms, but they freed them once a day. It was just in order to permit them to go outside for release themselves.
Home to 1,200 residents, the island is filled with houses that have withstood the test of time and the horrors that played out from the 6th century.
During the slave trade, usually traders have had sex with virgin girls. But once a girl was pregnant, they'd freed her here in Goree Island or in Saint Louis. And Saint Louis was a former capital of Senegal, located in the northern part of the country.
So this is one of the rooms where slaves were kept during those early days of slave trade. Now this room is 2 meters by 60, which used to host up to 30 slaves. Conditions here were so bad that in 1776 a plague erupted. Now most of those slaves died before making it out to the door of no return. Old buildings are scattered on the island with a dark past in African history, that of slavery, where more than 20 million Africans were captured in the interior Africa only to be shipped out to the Americas, Caribbean and the West Indies to work in sugar and cotton plantations.
In that during the 16th, Africans as weapons used only arrows. So it was the Europeans who came to the West African coast during the 16th with firearms, alcohol and something like that. And they give to the African tribes living in all along the coast. So the consequences was the African tribal wars between different tribes, just in order to get prisoner, even to protect themselves, but to get prisoner to exchange with firearms and alcohol. Because the only currency accepted by Europeans was slaves.
Here lies the oldest building on the island, the House of Slaves. Every house on Goree Island was a slave house where men, women and children were kept by Europeans as goods waiting to be shipped out. It is said as a result, 1 out of 6 slaves died in the small rooms.
It's really interesting. It's very emotional to think that our forebears were taken from the land of freedom, held in these conditions and then taken across the seas to the Americas.
Once a slave was past the door of no return, he was separated from his family forever.
To come to a place like this that could have been the origin of where some of my ancestors came from brings some emotion and mixed emotions, both of interest as a historical fact, but also a great personal sense of the feeling of where my ancestors could have come from, and what sort of destruction of families happened to make the journey across the Atlantic.
Today, Goree Island is thriving with economic activities such as tourism, where thousands of visitors throng the island to learn about slavery under the guidance of Eloa Koli, the chief curator over the last 32 years.
The purpose of what I'm doing is for the human being and for all, for the human being to consider that what's happened between 16th until 19th is just a part of the history of human being. It's not the history of black Africans. It's not only the history of white.
Other economic activities are a vibrant fishing industry and art. It also serves as an archaeological site detailing the history of Aliman, all preserved in this museum. In 1978, Goree Island was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For KBC Channel 1, I'm Ronald Owili.